Okay, so I've been living in Thailand now for 15 years, and I always get asked the same question. Jonny, do you miss Australia? Well, short answer, yes. Long answer, no, not really. So in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down what I actually do miss from Australia and what I really don't. What do I miss from Australia after all these years? Well, let's start off with the food. I do miss food from Australia. We'll start off with pies and sausage rolls. Oh, I miss the old pie and sausage roll, especially from the service station, you know, the piping hot ones that burn your mouth. And of course, sausage rolls. It's an Australian staple, both of them. So yeah, pies and sausage rolls, definitely miss them. Australian beef, I definitely miss Australian beef and lamb. Lamb's just so expensive here. I was in Villa Mart the other day and I saw I think it was 3 lamb cutlets, and it was 300 gram and it was 900 baht. So it works out to be about 3,000 baht a kilo for lamb over here. Over $100 Australian for lamb. So it's just crazy. So you just don't eat it here, especially lamb. It's really hard to get like a decent steak here in Thailand. They either overcook it or they undercook it. You know, if you really want to spend the big bucks, you can get a decent steak like in Bangkok and stuff. KFC over here just doesn't hit the mark. Like, they're shoestring chips, but I know in Australia, the KFC chips are amazing, they're fat. And most of all, they've got that chicken salt, which, you know, everyone loves KFC chips with gravy. If I could buy that seasoning, that chip seasoning by the kilo, I would. If anyone's watching from Australia and you work at KFC and you get me a bag of that seasoning, email me and I'll buy it off you. Finally, I think late night kebabs. So yeah, definitely miss the kebabs, you know, with tabbouleh, garlic sauce, tomato sauce, cheese. They toast it well. The kebabs over here in Thailand just don't hit it. I also miss like supermarkets, like Woolworths and Coles, you know. Just going to the supermarket, like to Coles, you've got so much more variety, so much more selection. If you go into Coles like about 7, 8 o'clock at night, you can buy half-price stuff, like half-price bread, half-price chicken. So in Australia, they, you know, with their bread and their chickens and stuff, they mark it down late at night to get rid of it. But in Thailand, they try and keep it for another day or two. So, you know, it's the produce in Australia is just, I think, so much better than Thailand. You know, I'm not knocking Thailand, the food's great here. Australia's pretty much got the best produce in the world when it comes to seafood, meats and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's it. So that's pretty much about the food. Let me know in your comments if you live in Thailand, you're from Australia, what kind of food do you miss? I feel like a sausage roll now and some KFC chips. So what else do I miss from Australia? I miss like Aussie banter with friends. You know, over here, they do take things a lot more seriously here. You don't give the finger here, call someone a C word. I know in Australia, you know, you'll walk into a pub, you go, "G'day, C word, how are you, mate?" And it's just normal. And you're just saying, "How are you, buddy?" But a lot of people take offense to that, and I can see why, especially like people from the UK. Like sometimes I've gone, "Oh, g'day, C word," and they've gone, "What'd you say?" So yeah, I do miss the Aussie banter. What else do I miss? I miss family and friends, obviously. You know, I don't stay in contact with my family and friends as much as back in Australia, as much as what I should have. I think that just happens to people when they move to Thailand. You kind of move on with your life. You know, you've started a new life in Thailand or overseas. And like, you still keep in contact with your friends there, but you seem to like drift apart. I don't know why that is. I think it's like high school when when you're at high school or at university, you have your really close friends, but then if you move to another school or you move to another university and stuff, you find new friends and you start a new life. But you know, I still have plenty of good friends back on the Gold Coast, and obviously I love my family back there still too. Yeah, you kind of drift apart. But unfortunately, you know, if I ever get back there soon, I'd love to catch up with everyone. But they've moved on with their lives, you know, they're married, they've got kids now. You know, it's not the same as what it was, you know, when I lived there so many years ago. So family and friends, I do obviously miss them. But you know, you learn to live without them, and you find new people here. Yeah, so what else do I miss? Oh, the pub culture and like Sunday sessions, you know. I miss going to the pub when I had my boat detailing and fiberglass super yacht repair business on the Gold Coast. Every Friday, I'd take the boys down to the pub there near Dreamworld. You know, but you'd get pissed on a Friday afternoon, you'd win some meat raffles, you'd play the pokies. Just, you know, just that pub culture that Australians know too well. But the party really kicks on like in a Sunday session, starts at around 4 or 5, goes till about 10 o'clock, and you're up at 7 a.m. the next morning to go to work with a hangover. So Sunday sessions, I definitely miss that. And what else? Barbecue with mates, obviously. Yeah, you know, like that social side of things with Australia. You know, you'd always, you know, if there was a big football game on, you'd always catch up, have a barbecue, you talk about politics, you talk about the news. You know, barbecues are huge in Australia. You know, the golden rule is whoever's barbecue it is, you don't touch the barbecue, they cook. So yeah, it's just that kind of social aspect you don't really see here much in Thailand, which, you know, you learn to live without it, but you do miss it, I know that. Okay, so another thing I miss from Australia is obviously the clean air. You know, Australia's pretty much one of the most cleanest countries in the world, especially the beaches. I miss the Gold Coast beaches. If you're not aware, I'm actually from the Gold Coast, or they call it the Goldie, which is in Queensland. It's known worldwide for its beautiful beaches. Australia in general is actually just spotless. We actually really do look after our country. Unfortunately, here in Thailand, as much as beautiful as what Thailand is, rubbish is a huge problem here. Not just in the ocean, in the streets. Bangkok, there's no bins. So they just throw their rubbish out in the street. In Australia, you don't see any rubbish whatsoever. I'm sure anyone that goes to Australia will admit it's one of the cleanest countries in the world. And the oceans are just, you know, spotless. So yeah, I do miss that. And the air quality, air here in Thailand can be quite bad for a couple of months of the year, especially when they've got the burning season from Chiang Mai. That kind of goes across the whole country. You don't get that in Australia. It's beautiful, clean air. So that's something I really do miss. Another thing I miss is too the open roads, like going for a Sunday cruise. Thailand hasn't got the best roads. Mind you, that some of the freeways are beautiful, excellent freeways. But it's just when you get in, especially here in Hinn, the roads are pretty bad. There's potholes pretty much every metre. The roads are skinny. You can't get car parks. It's a bit of a nightmare. And another thing is getting in a car and knowing that I'm not going to die that day. You know, in Australia, everyone knows how to drive a car. They know how to use a roundabout. Here is just absolutely shocking. They don't know how to drive whatsoever. I don't know where they get the licence from, Kellogg's cornflakes box or something. But in Australia, they teach the kids young, from about 15, 16, you've got to have 200 hours to drive. Then you've got to do a theory test, then you've got to do a physical test. So it's really hard to get your licence in Australia. Here, it's just out of control. Yeah. Every day I jump in the car or I jump on a motorbike and I think to myself, I could die today. So yeah, tell me what you miss if you live in Thailand or you live in Asia. Put in the comments of what you miss from your own country. I'd love to hear it. So before I get into what I really don't miss from Australia, here's a quick word from our sponsor, NordVPN. I've been living in Thailand 15 years now, and when you're bouncing around different cafes, different public Wi-Fi spots, or the odd dodgy hotel, you want to make sure your data's not getting passed around like a flyer from Betong Boxing Stadium. That's where NordVPN comes in. One click and boom, you're protected. The new Threat Protection Pro keeps you safe from malware, phishing links, and fake shopping sites, like they try and scam you with unreal deals. And the best part, it even works when you're not connected to a VPN server. It blocks dodgy sites, sketchy ads, and malware in the background, so you're protected 24/7. If you're like me and you love streaming Aussie content, whether it be news, current affairs, or even sport, while living abroad or traveling abroad, NordVPN lets you access your favorite content from anywhere in the world. Get an exclusive deal now at nordvpn.com/JonnyVPN. That's going to give you 4 months extra free and also a 30-day money-back guarantee. No risk, just peace of mind. Many thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Okay, so let's get into the things that I don't miss from Australia. And this is quite easy. This is very easy, this segment. So what I don't miss from Australia is the cost of living. To go to the movies these days in Australia, it's $50 minimum. To do anything in Australia these days is to go out of the house is normally $100, whatever you're doing. The groceries are expensive, rent's expensive. You know, I've got friends of mine that live on the Gold Coast and they're earning good money. They're earning like nearly $150,000, $200,000 a year. And they're just getting by the time they're paying their mortgages off, by they're paying the car insurance or the car repayments. They're putting their kids through school. You know, you need at least $200,000 to even live these days for a normal household in Australia. I've heard it's $300 or $400 to take your family of four to the movies these days. You know, you're going to have to go out and have dinner afterwards, whether at McDonald's. To do anything in Australia is just totally out of control. Just the cost of living is just madness. I don't really feel it much because I've been living in Thailand 15 years, but from what people have told me, and I'm sure everyone's watching this video now can completely agree with me. Now this is going to be another one, taxes. There's so many taxes in Australia, I've got a list of them. Okay, first of all, you've got company tax, you've got land tax, you've got payroll tax if you've got a company, personal income tax, you've got GST, you've capital gains tax, fringe benefits tax, stamp duty, they've got customs duty, superannuation tax, consumption tax, luxury car tax. They tax you for bloody everything. I think they tax you when you die now, so just taxes are out of control. You know, you can thank the Australian government for that. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the government side of things. So there's cost of living, taxes, and the third one, traffic and council fines. So like, people are going to say, oh, don't speed and don't be on your phone when you're driving. But you know, if you're driving a car, but you're 40 kilometres over the limit, doesn't matter how many points you got, instant loss of licence for 3 months. So that can really hurt people, you know what I mean? Some people don't see these speed cameras, or some people don't see these signs that, you know, tell you the speed limit. But if they get you 40 kilometres over the speed limit, it's instant loss of licence for 3 months. So if you're running a business, you know, that could pretty much send you broke. Or if you've got a job that you need, you're a tradesperson, that you need your ute to work with. I know people are going to say, yeah, but you shouldn't be doing that anyway. I totally agree with that, but it's too overpoliced. You know, they say, oh, we've got so many speed cameras out and we've got so many red light cameras and stuff out. And now, you know, it's to save lives. It's not to save lives, that's bullshit. It's to raise revenue. They know the roads that people are going to speed on. And they say, oh, we're saving lives. It's not that at all. It's a revenue raising, simple as that. Also tolls. We don't really get it so much on the Gold Coast, but I know in Sydney, I know a friend of mine that spends $30 to $40 a day because he's going back and forth each side of Sydney a couple of times a day. He spends, you know, $300 or $400 a week just in tolls. Now to talk about the council, you know, the council will fine you for anything these days. You put your wheelie bin out too far, fine. You don't cut your grass, fine. The council will fine you for anything. You get those parking inspectors that will, you know, they wait for you to leave your car, and if you don't put money in the meter, $150 fine for parking. They try and screw you for money wherever you turn. So if you're wondering where we are, we're actually at the Hinn floating market, and Som's with me. Hello, Som.
Hello.
How are you? What's this? Got you at lunch. Huh? What do we got there? Feed the fish. Let's feed the fish. Oh, look at all them. There's some big fish there. Yeah, so this is 200 baht entry, guys, if you want to come and have a look. Only Farang. Tyres are free.
Yeah, Thai free.
Thai free, Farang, 200 baht. Thailand, Farang pay for everything.
Yes.
Oh, so where are we going?
Go Australia.
No, we don't want to go there. Quick, turn the boat round. Turn the boat round. We don't be going there. Bloody hell. Go to Australia.
Let's go.
Okay, more things that I don't miss about Australia. Another one, dealing with the council again. Overregulation. You know, if you're building a house or you're renovating a house, there's so much red tape at the moment to build a house, or even to just do a renovation in your house. Yeah, it needs to go through council, which can take months. It costs money to do that. Everything's regulated. I was talking before that, you know, you've got to cut your grass. Whatever you do in Australia, it's regulated, and it's too heavily regulated, I think. You know, you can't do anything. You can't cut a tree down without having to get the council. If you're building a carport, you've got to get the council. You can't have loud music after 10 p.m. or the police come and, you know, tell you to turn the music down, or they're going to arrest her or shut the whole party down. You can't do anything. You can't fart without having to fill in forms or getting permission, or so over-regulated for sure. And this is what I love about Thailand is, you know, I know people that have built houses and they've done extensions. And, you know, you've got to tell the council, but it's done in one day. And it's not so heavily regulated. And I just think there's too much red tape in Australia, and it just drives people mad, you know? Okay, so another thing that I don't miss is woke culture and political correctness. You know, you can't say, it's so easy to get cancelled in Australia these days. Like I was watching the news this morning, and there's a footballer that, you know, gave a fan, I think it was Aussie rules, and he's getting dragged through the mud at the moment because he was playing in an away game and he was walking back to the locker room, and he gave someone gave the finger, and now he's getting dragged through the media like they're going to crucify him just for giving, you know, someone in the crowd a finger. But, you know, they've got transsexual toilets now, and I think that's just crazy, you know. Just the wokeness in Australia's gotten out of control. It really has. And I see it in the media all the time. You know, it's just something that Australia never used to have. But I think, you know, with social media and that, you just kind of, you know, it's just so easy to offend people. And I think Australia needs to go back to having some balls instead of like just the wokeness and political correctness. But, you know, that's something I definitely don't miss. And another thing that I don't miss from Australia is like the dead-eyed customer service. You know, you go to a supermarket or you go to a shop and you buy something and the clerk behind the counter that's serving you know, she's looking at you like you've killed a dog or you've insulted a dog or something. You know, you don't get any customer service, I'm sure, back in Australia these days. I think that's very important for businesses to give customer service, but, you know, and you can tell they hate their job. You know, they just don't want to be there. They've probably got no issue with you, but they just don't want to be there. And, you know, so they don't acknowledge you, they don't smile. So I think that's a very big issue. The dead-eyed customer service. They probably don't care about you here, there, but at least they try. At least they try to smile and try to care. Depends where you go though. I don't think the customer service here in stores is that great either, but you know, at least here they try. So here, let's get into some more things that I really, really don't miss from Australia, and that's tall poppy syndrome. Australia, for some reason, has this tall poppy syndrome. So if you are successful, people try and knock you down. They either call you like you're a trust fund baby, or you're selling drugs, or you're doing something to be so successful so quick. They don't like people succeeding. I think it comes down to jealousy. I've got a lot of rich friends there, and I know they feel it a lot. You know, they just get shit put on them, really, even from their own friends. You know what I mean? People are bitching behind your back, oh, he's got this. And I think Australia's got a thing about keeping up with the Joneses, which means that you try and keep it up with your next door neighbour. Especially on the Gold Coast where I'm from, I know for a fact that people own properties in Hope Island or Century Cove, and they can't even afford to furnish them, but they just want to live there in a gated estate so they can show off to their friends that they live in a gated estate. But they can't afford to furnish their house. You know what I mean? They live outside their means just to try and show off or try and prove something to someone. Or, you know, a lot of people on the Gold Coast drive around in BMWs, Mercedes-Benzes, whatever. They don't own them. You know, they're all financed to the hilt, but they're driving around like they own, you know, they're loaded, but it's the most, you know, just fake. Tall poppy syndrome, I think, is a strong thing that I don't miss. They judge you on your clothes, what you're wearing. So yeah, tall poppy syndrome, I think. I really don't miss that. Another thing I don't really miss is the weather. Even though I'm lucky I'm from Queensland, which has pretty much got the best weather in Australia, we do have winter. In Thailand, we don't have winter. Not so much in Queensland, but especially in Victoria. I know Darren sent me a picture the other day and he was on his way to work and it was 3 degrees. It was about 6 a.m. in the morning. It was 3 degrees in Melbourne the other morning, and I don't miss the cold weather. That's another thing I don't miss. And another thing, I'm sorry, I've got to say this. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I don't miss Karens walking around with muffin tops. I think it's like an epidemic now. Yeah, so many, they're just angry at the world. And you can see it on their face, you know, they've got the lemon lips, like they've been sucking on lemons all day. And it doesn't matter what you do for them, they'll always be angry, so you can't help the Karens. Okay, so it's starting to rain, so I've got to get out of the rain, and I'll see you guys just for a wrap up very soon. Okay, so let's just wrap it up with this. You know, Australia will always be my home in some way, but after 15 years in Thailand, I'm not rushing back. Australia used to be called the lucky country. It certainly isn't anymore. So that's pretty much about it. Please, in the comments, if you've left your home country, whether it be UK, Australia, America, wherever, and you've moved to Asia or some other place to get away from your home country because I had problems, please let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Please head over to nordvpn.com/JonnyVPN, 4 months extra free and also 30-day money-back guarantee. I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.